do I toss this to Director Rasmussen or Deputy Superintendent Nui? Oh, actually, I'm so used to seeing you on the screen. I'm sorry. We started out strong and it didn't take long. But,
I'm here.
Okay. AGBL, if you could queue up the committee, thank you.
Absolutely, yes. So this is a waiver renewal request coming in under R277-121 for a waiver of the 180-day rule. It's for, as you stated, Chair, the 3 schools, Park Valley, Grouse Creek, and Snowville, which are the 3 most rural schools in the district. The district has been on this waiver for quite some time. They submitted a pretty extensive waiver request application with all of the data and parent surveys as required by rule. It's in your backup for review. And they did hold the additional meetings that we implemented into rule last year. So I believe someone's going to be online available. Yes, okay.
Is someone online for the Box Elder School District waiver request? Not at the present time.
Chair, it sounds like they were planning to be but aren't here yet. So if we want to move on to another item and then circle back, or
Yeah,
it's up to you.
I don't see any objections to do that. So thank you. If they do come online or reach out, will you just update the committee? Thank you. Let's go to item 3.3. This is our Cambridge Preparatory Academy waiver request. This is a new waiver request. And again, Ashley Beal will be queuing us up. Thank you.
Yes. Okay, so this waiver request is coming in from Cambridge Preparatory Academy. The waiver is requesting to waive Rule R277-552, which requires notification to the state board by October 1st of the year prior to opening for a school to open a new charter school. In this case, the school didn't have a building available. There's now a building available, so they are requesting a waiver of that rule for the October 1 deadline to be able to notify the board and qualify for funding. And I think we have some folks here from CPA available to answer any questions.
Thank you. And Deputy Beal, let me ask you, did they receive approval for their waiver from the state charter school board?
That's a great question. Yes, they did.
Okay. And was that a unanimous vote or was that a split vote? Do you know?
I believe it was unanimous. I'm trying. Yeah,
was
as I
unanimous
say,
vote.
I have the letter. So
Okay.
yeah,
But ultimately that decision resides with this board.
yes, to waive the
Okay.
October 1 deadline. Correct.
Okay, thank you. With that, is there someone here to speak to the Cambridge Preparatory Academy waiver request? 2 individuals, please come up. And if you'll just introduce yourself and tell us who you're representing, that would be great. Thank you.
Good morning. My name's Stan Lockhart. I'm the chairman of the board of Cambridge Preparatory Academy and a former member of this board, frankly, so it's good to be back. I'm here with Matt Throckmorton. He represents Charter One, our operator for the charter.
If you would just like to give us an introduction to your waiver request, that would be great. Thank you.
Great. We've passed out a presentation. It's a PowerPoint, and we're going to use the old school of just going through. It's a brief introduction to who we are and what we're all about at Cambridge. I'm the chairman of the board. Our other board members are Laura Wirt-Burton. She's renowned in the area of anti-suicide, suicide prevention, I guess would be a better way of saying it, in the state. And Richard Holt has experience in auditing for the LDS Church, so he handles a lot of our financial oversight. Jared Rose is in technology, We have Rob Bishop, former congressman and also an educator, and Sally Birmingham's a former educator as well. We also, our seventh member is Denise Bonnet, and she is a local member of the community just within maybe a couple of rocks throws from where the school is located, active member of that local community. The building will be in South Provo. It's an area that is the local school in the area is a Title I school. We expect to have many kids who come from poverty, and we're prepared to meet those needs. We understand that children who enter kindergarten from poverty have as much as a 40,000 word deficit in vocabulary, and so they have a lot to overcome when they're taught. We're prepared to meet that challenge. We'll have 450 students at full enrollment. It's a K-8 campus, and you'll have about 50 students per grade. I've been asked from time to time, what is unique about Cambridge? Because the whole purpose of charters is to have something that's different. And we do have some high goals. One of our goals is to have every child progress at least 1 year in every grade subject that they're in. That is an ambitious undertaking because we know that the reality is most schools do not provide that. To do that, we have what I call best practice curriculum, time tested. There's nothing special about it. It's the normal scaffolding of educational content with children, having them learn. So you'll see us with core knowledge and Eureka Math as our primary curriculums. What we are going to do in order to get to our goals is we have number one, what we call RAISE values. They're actually leadership training and leadership preparation for kids. We call them our RAISE values, but they teach respect, accountability, integrity, service, and excellence. And it overshadows all the rest of the curriculum that we provide, and every child will understand these principles as they attend our school.
Mr. Lucca, let me just jump in and say that you made an application for a waiver request. So instead of waiting the full year, you want to open the school. It appears immediately.
Yes.
So if you could focus on the necessity of the why, I guess. So you apparently satisfied the concerns of the state charter school board, that you are fiscally ready, that you have the students who want to come there. So if you could focus on that part of the application, meaning why do you need the waiver?
Okay.
Thank you.
We were approved. First of all, I think I should back up. We have been working on this school for 9 years. We've had a circuitous route to getting approved. Part of the challenge, the biggest challenge we've had is the price of land to build a school. And as we've searched Salt Lake Valley and then northern Utah County and finally ended up in South Provo, it's been to find an affordable place. The ratio for education in a school, in a charter school, according to our state charter school board, is 60% of your funds need to be dedicated to instruction in the classroom, which mostly goes to teacher salaries. 20% goes to the operation of the school, and that's what we've hired Charter One to do for us. And then 20% goes into the building. When you start raising the ratios outside of 20% for the building, it impacts your ability to give these kids quality instruction. And so we just simply have had troubles getting to that price point. We have found a school that allows us to be in that ratio. That's why we've hopped on it. That's why we've, after a long journey and the state charter school board denying us from time to time, and it's really been quite a journey the last several years. We have finally found the school. We have the same board we started with 7 years ago when we first applied for a charter. And we have a great charter school partner that is experienced in doing this. They have over 30,000 kids in charter schools around the country, and they know how to do this. They do it well. We're excited to have Charter One as our partner. So we're ready to go. You can see, if you'll go to the second to the last page, you'll see Cambridge Preparatory Academy is ready now. We have finalists for our school leader. We have a large pool of teachers ready to move to final interviews. We have aligned curriculum and materials ready to go. We've been marketing since August 2025 with 680 interested families. We're ready to start collaborating with UVU and UEN on micro-credentials for our teachers, which we really believe is one of the keys to getting the outcomes, is to have observation of our teachers in the classroom by professionals and offer them micro-credentials to skill them up in 3 key areas: content knowledge, pedagogy, and classroom management. I mean, it's just, you guys, this is what happens in every school. It's not like we're doing anything different, but we need to have our teachers skill up to become master teachers as quickly as possible. If we had the money, we'd hire master teachers in every subject for every kid, but we know that it just won't work out that way. We're going to have a lot of first year and second year and third year teachers. We want them to become master teachers as quickly as possible. We're going to have professional learning groups. We're going to do everything that a normal school does. But these micro-credentials is a little bit unique. And we're going to partner with UVU, and they're going to come in and they're going to help us skill up our teachers during the school year, which we're excited to do. We believe the most important person in a classroom is a teacher. So anyway, we're ready to go. We have a pool of teachers, we have a pool of students, we have school leaders that are in the final stages of approval. We'll be ready in August. That's why we're here.
Any questions or thoughts from the committee? Vice Chair Bollinger?
Thank you, Chair. If I may, I actually have several questions for you. First of all, I mean, I appreciate the detailed information and the structure, and it sounds like you've been working on this for 9 years. So, question on, with this pool of families, where are you pulling from? Where are they coming from? Are they coming from the Provo area? Are they
They are.
coming from the Provo area? Okay, and how many teachers do you anticipate to hire? You said 50 students per grade, so about how many teachers per grade would you be looking at?
Matt, you want to help me there? I think the plan is to have 25-to-1 student-teacher ratios. I think that's the goal.
So about 2 teachers
Yeah, per grade.
per grade. Okay. So Provo School District, my understanding is not a high growth area. Is that correct?
Correct.
So when we're pulling these students, we're pulling them from typically Provo School District this time of the school year. My concern with this late in the season, because typically we have the October 1st deadline, so then they can already say, hey, we're not coming to your local schools. As a principal, our schools and our districts have already tried to set their FTE based off of their projected enrollment. So now if we're going to pull 450 students, that's the size of a whole elementary school, if not 2 elementary schools from Provo School District, which means that could potentially leave them having to RIS teachers this late in the game. And that's even if we approve it and then it has to go to the full board for approval. So we're looking at teachers wouldn't even know until April then how that's going to impact them. That's my biggest concern. So my question is, why do we need this waiver right this minute, this late? If you've been working on this for 9 years, why did we wait this late in the game past the October 1st deadline?
We were approved in January. That's the primary reason. We would have submitted in October. We've been ready.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that January is when we finally got approval from the State Charter School Board. We've had communication with the Provo School District. The superintendent there has been very cordial, and we've not spent a lot of time with them, but we intend to. She was supportive of the school when we sent her a required notice and sent us an email telling us that she supported us. We intend to work with Provo School District. It's not like we're going to be off on our own doing our own thing completely. We want to collaborate with them. In terms of numbers, I think it does pose some problem, but keep in mind this is in the southernmost part of Provo. We'll probably draw a little bit from Springville as well. So I don't think the entire burden will be on the Provo School District.
If I may follow up. So another question. So the October 1st deadline as well, my understanding is partly to also have access to funds for startup funds. Is that something that you guys were intending to apply for with this waiver as well? Is that part of the waiver?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And so those schools that have followed the process, and maybe do we have somebody from the state school board or from the charter board that can maybe help us answer a question? If is that in order, Chair?
It is. I don't see anyone. I
Is
see
anybody
Rod's
from the-
wife in the back
We don't
row,
have
but
anybody
I
from-
don't see anyone from the State Charter
Oh.
School Board.
No, nobody's from the state charter. Well, here's my question is because we have schools there's several new charter schools starting up that have followed the process to apply by October 1st. So my concern there then is, are we skipping the line to those that followed the process by the October 1st deadline, and now we're competing for startup funds when they're limited? So that's another concern that I have. So let me just ask this follow-up question. Why? Because it sounds like your approval was January 1st. So I understand that whole process. So if our rule that you're asking for waiver for says October 1st, why not wait till the next October to follow in line with the state law and the state rule?
Because we're ready. If we weren't ready, we wouldn't be here. When this building became available, frankly, there was more than one school, more than one proposal before the State Charter School Board trying to get in there by this fall. It's an empty building. It's built to be a school. To have wasted space for another year just doesn't make a lot of sense, particularly if we're ready to go.
Could I add one point?
Sure.
And this is kind of a typical charter school experience, because right now charter schools statewide, they're gathering students and
Did
in the process.
you already introduce yourself and who you work for? Did you put that on the record when we started?
Stan did.
I did, but that's all right.
Matt
if you could.
Throckmorton.
Thank you.
With Charter 1.
So like right now, statewide, all the charter schools are signing up kids. And so the standard process is first the families express the interest, and then the charter school reaches back out and they start gathering information. And as soon as they have all the information, like copy of the birth certificate and all that, they go into the system, and all of this is for next year. And so school districts and other charter schools, they aren't really aware of the changing enrollment until they get into like July and August and all that. So there's always this adjustment that takes place, and this affects other charter schools. So everybody, it's like you have your enrollment, and then in August you find out who actually shows up. And so my point is that this adjustment that you're referencing, I mean, it's kind of a natural attrition that takes place, across the board. And we also, there's a lot of, like the location of this is very South Provo. So you go down State Street, it's right on State Street. You go down State Street 1.5 miles or so, and you're in the Nebo School District. And there's a lot of brand new construction there in areas. So the growth is going to be spread across a lot of different areas. So it'll have much more of a minimal impact on like one school.
Chair, if I may have one more question, and this may be more to staff, and I don't know if Ben or somebody can help. When we have, I wasn't here when that October 1st deadline was put in. Can anybody speak to why that deadline was put in?
I think it's mainly financial planning. I think Scott Jones would probably be the best to answer that, but he's in the other committee. But that would be my educated guess, is it has to deal with financial issues and planning for that.
Board Member Lear?
Thank you. I have a number of questions too. Some of them similar to Vice Chair Bollinger's, some of them a little different. I do appreciate you coming and hearing that you've been planning this for a long time. But as in reading this, and granted it was late, so maybe my understanding wasn't as acute as it should have been. But I wish the page numbers were. I wish there were page numbers so I could be a little more clear about where I want, what I want some explanation of, what I would like some explanation of. And the other thing I might mention is these links, which I was very interested in, are not accessible to us because you had to have permission from you folks to get into them. So I couldn't get into the links. which was a little troubling. So I'm looking at the bottom of the first page. It talks about action items it's under, this is in your application, not in your PowerPoint thing. But it's number 5, action items, and then there's an A, and I cannot make sense of what this next paragraph is telling me. So I can either read it to you, and then maybe Matt might be the best person to explain it, but I'm trying to understand what it's saying. Discussion, action, and time frame regarding an EMO proposal, and I'm not sure what that means. Mitch Swab explains the RPF submission and the contract for services. He also references the list of services provided by C1, which reflects the RFP and is included as attachments to the C1 proposal. The 2 major changes relative to the prior agreement are enhanced indemnifications for both CPA and C1 and scaling the fee. That's great legal protections for CPA and C1 and slightly lower fees. So would one of you tell me what that says?
Yeah. So what I think you're looking at is maybe the minutes from one of our board meetings. Does that sound right to you?
Approval, board minutes link, which I couldn't open. Action items, yes, it is.
Okay. So, since we've been at this for so long, we've actually had multiple RFPs for a charter school operator. And the first one that we did, I believe, was in 2022 when we chose Charter One. In order to go through the process, we wanted to issue, even though we wanted Charter One as our partner, we felt like we owed it to the process to go ahead and open up an RFP again. And so we did so. And some of what you have there are the nuances of the RFP. So we opened up an RFP for an operator, and Charter One was the only submission during the opening of that RFP. And so they ended up getting chosen again.
What are enhanced indemnifications for both CPA and C1? What does that even have to do with? And then scaling the fee, I maybe can guess that is the fee you're going to pay Charter One.
Yes.
And then I don't see how there are great legal protections and slightly lowered fees. I'm not trying to torture you at all. I'm just trying to ask if you've been working on this for so long and you're
Yeah.
dead ready to go,
Okay,
this should
so
make sense to me.
Here, there are a bunch of acronyms in there.
Yeah.
I think that's part of the problem here. During our approval from the State Charter School Board, they ask a lot of hard questions. And some of the questions that they asked had to do with these issues that you're referencing.
In this,
And so what
paragraph.
he's responding to are the issues that State Charter School Board members had and how they had overcome those through this process that we had just gone through with an responses to with an RFP and then responses to and the awarding of who the operator was. So what you see in there are really responses to questions that the State Charter School Board had that we addressed during those meetings and subsequently addressed them in our board meeting.
okay. And my point is really that if you're ready to go, the minutes maybe should be a little bit more, should be more easily read and more easily understood. And these are not. And
Thank you
I'm
for
an
that.
attorney who studied this stuff.
Yes,
so
you
I
are.
so I can imagine what normal, unencumbered people can read these and not feel quite the same way. I've got another paragraph like that I don't need to belabor maybe, but a couple more questions if that's okay, Chair, that are related some of them to what Amanda asked. Do you have, because I'm familiar with the principal in Provo High School and the personnel there, do you have an email from the principal that says, or the district that says we'll love to work with you, or
Yes.
any? Could you provide us a copy of that?
I don't have one on me, but I can send it to you,
Okay.
Carol.
It was in the application. It's Dr. Wendy Dow, the superintendent.
So it's from the superintendent,
It
not
is.
not the principal.
Right, correct.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I would like to see the way she characterized her support.
So if you have a copy of our application, it should be in the back of that application.
And I think we do, but I did not see that.
I don't remember seeing that.
We don't have apps.
Well,
I guess maybe
application
we
for the
don't.
charter, not for the waiver. That,
Oh,
so
right,
part of the
right,
Oh,
application for the charter
oh.
is
Right.
include letters of support.
We'll
Yeah.
get that to you.
That would be somewhat helpful. And then back to the question of personnel. There are 3 new school districts in that area, in that same area, competing for personnel.
Yes.
And if Matt looks like he wants to speak to that, or is there something else?
Yeah, that's Alpine School District that split into 3.
Right.
Is that what you're
Yeah.
referencing?
But they're all within Utah County-ish.
Traveling distance, like Orem, which would be the furthest east of it, is probably like a 15-minute drive. But you go to the other one, of which there's some awesome folks here, which is the new
Right.
Lake Mountain. It's probably like a 30 to 40-minute drive. So it's like, it's not like right next door.
So where are you pulling your teachers
Nebo,
from?
well, Utah County, I think that's true.
Nebo District, though?
No, no,
or
no, no, no.
Provo
I mean,
District?
our school is located at the south end of the Provo district,
Yeah,
right next to Nebo. But we're going to pull our teachers from the same places that Alpine does, Carol.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
yeah, that
Here,
seems
but
trouble.
here's the issue. It's not 3 new districts. It's one district that's been split into thirds. They
Right.
basically need the same number of teachers they've had in the past.
Yeah, some
with
of them will become administrators, though, in those
That's true.
That's
true.
areas.
But
so
it's not a
they-
huge difference from
they
what
won't.
they have today.
Well, that is a helpful thing to point out. Thank you. I'm also, well, the whole discussion of the E-rate, I think, is kind of beside the point, because I'm understanding that the E-rate no longer exists, as I understand it, from the federal government. But, so that's maybe a little outdated within this document. I had one more, related to the teachers, that's where I wanted to go a little bit further. So have you already started, I mean, these people are going to be working for you in August, and it's March. Have you already started getting applications from teachers?
So here's what they've done. Charter 1 has approximately somewhere between 15 and 20,000 kids in Arizona in their charters. And then they have another 10 or between 10 and 15,000 kids around the rest of the country. They have given those teachers who already work for them notice that there might be an opportunity in Provo, Utah this coming year. And they already have a list of teachers that are interested in coming.
Okay, at least verbally, you don't have any applications in hand, I'm guessing.
They do, but they're making certain not to make commitments just in
Yes,
case it doesn't happen. So
that's a good point. They have employment obligations, but you say you have, do you have a commitment from how many teachers, would you say, at least?
we have dozens that are really interested in this, but they're not like making, again, they're stressing even to them that we have to go through a process, get approved. So
Here's-
people don't start putting their house up for sale.
Here's what I've learned as a former member of the Utah State Board of Education.
Uh-huh.
You do not want to get ahead of the approvals that you're getting. And so everything that we've said has been contingent upon getting approval from you and from the entire board. We just need to manage expectations. If we were farther along in the process, we'd have greater commitment of those teachers. But they are aware that there is a possibility of being open this fall, and there's been great interest expressed with dozens of teachers.
Okay.
And ma'am, I have the letter. It's a short letter from Dr. Dale. Can I just read it
Oh,
aloud to you?
sure. I'd appreciate that.
It's dated Tuesday, November 11th, 2025, which is Veterans Day. Dear Mr. Lockhart, thank you so much for your email and for sending the application for Cambridge Preparatory Academy. My husband has long been involved in the charter school world, serving as principal of various charter schools in Davis and Weber counties. My own son had the very best experience at New Ames on the Weber-Davis campus when we lived up north. I look forward to working with you as we seek to increase opportunities for all students in Provo. Best, Wendy Dow, Superintendent, Provo School District.
Thank you. I'm glad to hear that that's a, I think she's pretty even tempered about it. She's not rushing to support, but at least I appreciate that you've consulted with that school district.
Yes.
I just was going to ask you, there was and some of the problems we've seen with charters opening are the things that are pretty boring, and one of them had to do with, well, this one had to do with insurance. And again, let me see if I can make sense of this question. It had to do with the insurance discussion on, sorry, I can't find it now, so I'm not gonna take the board's time or your time. But I had some concerns about the discussion of insurance in this briefer waiver document. And I would like to hear from, I thought I had a couple questions for Scott, and just for Scott Jones, our financial deputy, and had not remembered that he would be in another meeting that he's more in charge of, because I am a little bit concerned about the numbers of students when I know that Provo school district itself is shrinking, that I'm wondering about how another school in a proximate area, not right next door, would affect that. And if they can prepare for it, that's what they're expected to do. But on a 5-month turnaround, that could affect their faculty and their commitments to their own employees. So that concerns me somewhat. So those are my questions for now. Thanks for letting me ramble around a little bit. Thank you for your responses.
Yes, ma'am.
Board Member Longacre.
Thank you. One thing that I do appreciate, in looking into the curriculum is very appealing to me. And there was a charter school in the building previously, and they pulled from Eagle Mountain. They pulled from all over. And I know that parents will drive a far way to go to a quality school. I didn't see how much you're requesting for the startup funds. Can you answer that for me?
We didn't have that discussion in our last state charter school board meeting, but in a previous meeting with them, that did come up. I think it's $300,000. And I don't believe that we're in competition with others. It's not like there's a lesser sum of money that everybody's competing for. There is a pool of money, and you can, depending on the number of kids you have and the type of school you have, you can apply for a certain amount of that. I've never been under the impression that by us getting the startup funds, somebody else isn't getting those funds.
If I could provide just a little bit more, there's 3 pots of money. One of them is the great big huge one, which is the Utah Association of Public Charter Schools, $2 million. We haven't factored that in at all because only one of multiple schools are going to get it. There's 2 other pots. One is the revolving loan fund, and that's eligible to all charter schools that are approved. And our understanding is that we would be eligible even, and it's part of the waiver, even in a shortened time frame. The other is the one that Stan has mentioned, and there's a base amount, and then other than that, it's adjusted a little bit based on enrollment, and it's in that 300,000 range, and we're also eligible for that in this shortened time frame. And we have built that into our expectations because we were directed that was eligible.
Because you are a national charter school, did they offer any money to help start?
So they can help if they need like an initial line of credit type of a thing. They can help with that. But their model, and I'm a consultant, I don't actually work for them. I just help them on some projects and such. But they want everything to pencil out. The idea being is if you give the ridiculous example, if you gave somebody like $1 million, but they couldn't sustain it, then you're creating long-term problems. And so they always work within the funds that are available organically to a charter school. So everything that they've done fits within these 2 that I've mentioned. But they can, in a short term, front it. Like if it took the revolving loan fund till September, October for it to come in, they could help initially with that and then repay it once those funds come in.
Not only could they, but they've committed to.
Okay, can I ask a follow-up, Chair, please? So let's say that you are approved in this committee and then you go on to the full board next month and you're approved there. And we get closer to the beginning of the school year and enrollment isn't where you thought it would be. Teachers haven't committed like you hoped that they would be. Could this potentially be a burden financially on the state?
Let me, the answer is no. Charter One is committed to extend whatever line of credit is necessary to get us from one place to another to get access to funds. And they've also said that if we don't get to the number of kids that we're expecting, that they are willing to subsidize to make sure that we can provide a quality education for the kids who do show up.
Okay, thank you.
And let me just add, so Board Member Lear, I was going to say Carol, but Board Member Lear raised the question that from the minutes about scaling up of fees. They actually start the fees smaller to have a lesser impact, knowing that the first couple of years may be tight. They can also scale the cost of the building, right? So, if you have fewer students, you have fewer teachers, so your costs go down and the costs go down with the building as well. So they've built those redundancies and protections in as well, just so that they can operate in a balanced situation and not be a burden.
I appreciate that, and I know we have more questions, and Deputy Superintendent Jones is here, but I need the committee to indulge me for a second. You know that we do public comment at generally the beginning of the day, but unlike the full board, our committees don't have really a fixed protocol when it comes to public comment, and the committee chair has discretion, but I typically defer to the committee, and I will this time as well. It's my understanding we have an individual from Nebo School District, is that correct? Who would like to offer public comment on this matter. The individual has been made aware that this is not going to be a Lincoln Douglas debate, that they are here to give public comment and not. But again, I do believe that structure is important, but I also believe that, especially at the committee level, we need to have that awareness.
We'll hear from them.
So if there's no objection, not seeing any, what I'd like to do and what I'll propose is that we hear from the representative. I shouldn't say representative. I know she's from Nebo. I don't know if she's speaking on behalf of Nebo. We'll hear from the individual, and then we'll invite both of you back to answer more questions from the committee. Does that work? Okay, thank you. And I thank the committee. Please. You'll see a button with a person talking. Oh, it's O. And if you just introduce yourself, and if you are representing someone, just let the committee know who that is. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I'm Shauna Warnick. I'm actually here today representing the Utah School Board Association. I'm on their board of directors, but I also happen to be a member of the Nebo Board of Education, and so this just happens to be a subject that I am interested in today and didn't find out till just now. I would like to respectfully say, wow, this Cambridge Academy model sounds awesome. And I am sure that, it's entirely possible that students from Nebo District will choose to apply and enroll in Cambridge Academy. And I'm really sympathetic to the challenge, the longtime challenge. But one thing to be aware of, a couple of things. Nebo School District has had declining enrollment this past year, particularly in the Springville area, but because we've grown and grown and grown for many years, but because of the slowing growth in the economy, we haven't had the building and growth as we should, as well as birth rates. We actually announced, we took a vote on Wednesday and announced yesterday to begin the study process to close 2 elementary schools in our school district, one of which is in Springville, which is right next to South Provo, where Cambridge Academy will open. And so as partners in education in Utah County, we would appreciate the time. I also represent the superintendent, who's given me the thumbs up for my comments, but that we would appreciate the time to regroup and plan and prepare for the potential financial and student and employee impact to our district. And that's all I have to say. Thank you so much for your work.
We could have the representatives from Cambridge Preparatory Academy back. And then Board Member Hall, did you have a light on and then
I
shut it
did.
off? Okay.
I was just gonna quickly, is it okay, Chair?
Yeah, let's just let Mr. Lockhart find his seat and then, go ahead, Board Member Hall.
Well, before the comments, I was just gonna share that, I'm the USBE liaison to the State Charter Board. And normally I would have been in that meeting when you guys were there for approval, but it was legislative session, when they were there for approval. But last year, I don't know if you remember, during legislative session, or right before legislative session, Wallace Stegner Academy went through the same process. The process is very thorough, that the State Charter Board goes through to make sure that, and they kind of look at all those things, the numbers and surrounding cities, and they take all the stuff into consideration before they decide to grant a waiver, to be able to open a school like this. So just with all that in mind, I want to remind us, as a full board, we voted to do the very same thing in the same month for Wallace Stegner Academy last year. And it's had I would say a minimal impact because students have come from cities all around to attend that school there in Sunset. So it's had a minimal impact on the community as a whole. They actually took over a school that was shut down, Fremont Elementary School in the area, in a dying area, and kind of brought life back to that area again. So I just wanted to share those comments. And
Thank you, Board Member Hall. I don't see any lights, but
I
do you-
actually had a couple more.
Oh.
Now that Scott,
please.
Deputy Jones is here, I was hoping to get some insight from him on a couple of issues, and then a couple of really simple ones that I probably should know. One of the questions I had as he's sitting down, if a school doesn't open in the first year, if it's approved, which it has been by the charter board, but doesn't open, does the school get money from the state for in that preparation year? Is it WPU money? Is it something different? What happens in that preparation year before students come?
So to answer Board Member Lear's question through the chair, the answer, so we have had circumstances, just real shortly, where a school has been approved a waiver to open, and then subsequently they didn't receive enough students. So at that point, the school has typically come back and said, hey, we want to extend this. So yes, there is some distribution of funds that does occur, because on the timeline, and this is a lot of the reason why there's the October 1 requirement in your rule, is for the distribution of funds to take place on July 1st. So, when we start that too. So then when school typically starts in August. I mean, there are some differences, but if they incur lower enrollment numbers, things, we've had schools come back to us and say, well, we need to wait another year. So then because the distribution of WPU funds is on a 1/12 basis, in those instances, the first 2 months, like July and August do, but then we pull back and don't distribute the 1/12. Does that effectively answer Board Member Lear's question, Chair?
I do not. That's sort of helpful. So I guess the layman's answer is there's some money that comes to the school,
There
that
is.
flows to the school in that preparatory year, which is what I wanted to know. And then, so my follow-up related question, maybe to the CPA people or to you, Scott, what is the magic number of students that you have to make this functional, this school functional?
So, well, if I may, Chair, so there, whenever we go through the process, with all authorizers, not just this one, there is a break-even point that's
Yeah,
usually established. So then now
Said
they
it better.
can let you know what theirs is.
Right.
So
And that would be,
I should have it memorized, but there's a couple hundred pages, so I don't. It's in the 300 range. The full capacity is 450 at the 300 range. But we also have in there a firm commitment that's part of the charter application, actually, is that the facility dials down as well, which effectively makes that break even a smaller number than even that.
all right. And then the other Scott question I had, and again, something I maybe should know, but helpful to hear again. If a school draws from, it's drawing from Nebo area, we just heard it draws from Provo, is there a separate pot of money that funds that, or does this just, do those students draw from the, that WPU, or just, they're just, that's money that goes to this new charter school that would have gone to Nebo and Provo, or is it a little separate than that?
So, through the chair, this, what Board Member Miller's question is relates to what is the mid-year update, right? So if, and this is another reason why we've established the October 1 date. And I just want to make it clear, I'm not for or against any waivers or anything, but the October 1 date is around what? The October 1 head counts, right? So then they estimate how many, or any new school, take Cambridge out of it, estimates how many students they'll have come in. And then we estimate and set the amount of the distribution, the estimated amount of distribution. We communicate that with, in this case, Nebo. We communicate it with them. So then when we get to October 1 of the next year, the actual counts come in, and then we update accordingly. So we might, if there was an influx of students from Nebo School District, we would catch that as part of the October 1 counts, and then subsequently do the mid-year update and adjust that. And then we're into the hold harmless space. But as you all know, the legislature has pulled that back, the hold harmless. So now this will be the first year where it would be impactful, Chair, to Board Member Miller's question on that aspect of it. But we don't know what we don't know until we know, based on the October 1 head counts, what, if anything, they received in student count, and what, if any, because it might not just be Nebo School District, because as you know, students can come in from other too. So that is what the purpose of the mid-year, well, the October 1 head counts that subsequently results in the mid-year updates.
All right, that's helpful. Thank you. Those were my questions.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. If I may direct this question to Deputy Superintendent Jones. So, because he brings up the concern that I think I have is that, and I just want to make sure I'm understanding this correctly, because if this opens and let's say they pull from Provo and Nebo, which has already declining enrollment, so they're already tight budget, and now all of a sudden they're down 450 students, and the hold harmless is now, funding is no longer available, that could potentially put those districts in a deficit for their school year.
Chair, that's correct. It would likely put them in a deficit, and then we would do the adjustments accordingly in the mid-year. However, the planning part and the budgeting part is incumbent upon the local districts too. This is why, as part of the process, there's the at least the initial contact with the local district superintendent or with the authorizer / charter school, which I'm sure they did with Nebo School District. They don't, there's no requirement for the local district to approve, or do that, but that's the liaison and where the school's located and those types of things all should be factored in, which again, ideally, we would like it on the timeline that, we're leading up, that everything is in place before October 1st, so that then we have that additional year. But we have done this before where we've waived and let schools open in the aspects of, being able to occupy space and do those types of things, all these kinds of additional considerations that need and absolutely have to be made. So hopefully that helps, Chair. So.
Is it possible I could add a thought on this subject?
Sure.
So having been in the charter school space for 20 plus years and having been part of this conversation, where do you draw kids from? It's extremely typical that, as Board Member Longacre noted, we get kids from all over. And so it's pretty safe to say that we're probably going to get, 10, 15 kids from this school, 12 kids from this school, and it's going to be spread across like numerous schools. And so I've never seen a situation like when I helped open the Utah Military Academy, we had 2 high schools that were, on boundaries just on either side of where we opened, both of which had JROTC programs, and we didn't know what to expect. And we were kind of apprehensive that we were going to, take all of their JROTC kids because we're a military academy. We took like 14 or 15 kids from one program and like 8 or 9 from the other program. And so kids are just showing up for different reasons. And so I fully expect this will be the same, where the impact will be spread far and wide.
Thank you. Vice Chair Ballinger.
Thank you, Chair. So just another follow-up question. So I know that you had mentioned and you read a message from the superintendent from Provo District, but we've also heard from Nebo District. Did you reach out to Nebo District? Have they been involved in this conversation as part of, because my understanding from what Deputy Superintendent Jones says that they don't have to approve it, but there should be some sort of a notification or communication. What communication have you had with Nebo School District?
So the application process is that you need to notify the district that you're physically going into. So we did the formal notification to Provo, but like the other schools, so Nebo and like Alpine and that, I'm sure that they were aware and such, but we didn't like formally reach out and submit our application to them for review and all that.
And Chair, if I may, so then I need to correct what I said earlier. I did mention Nebo, but I did mean Provo because that is where the school is physically located. So sorry, but yeah.
I don't see, I'm just waiting to see if any other lights come on. And we do have one.
And I don't have any further questions, just I guess some comments and some thinking that I'm having, because I agree with Member Longacre that, I mean, it looks like there's some great things. This looks like you've been working on this a long time. Great model, great opportunity for some students, and we do know that it can pull from different areas. There's also the military academy is a very unique space. This is, yes, there's some good curriculum pieces. So when we talk about people want to go to quality schools, I can see where people would be attracted to this school, but it's not like it's a unique experience where people would travel far distances for something that's not as unique. My biggest concern is as I weigh, we are stewards of all of the funding for all of the state for education. And we're in this space, I think, especially after this legislative session, where we have been asked to reduce things and make it more effective and efficient. And so that's where I'm struggling is this financially responsible? And yes, this is going to open at some point in some place in some time. But we also talk about like are we building more schools? Like if I think about in a school district that is not growing, it would be irresponsible to build new schools when they don't have increasing enrollment. And I do realize that students can come from all over. But again, if we are going to now, with this change of the hold harmless, and that's the difference for me. So when we approved Wallace Stegner, there's a hold harmless. So if there was a change to those local districts, then they were held harmless. This is no longer the case. And so I really am concerned about the potential impact it could have, not just financially, which is why we have the deadline, is to keep the state as a whole, making sure we're fiscally responsible for our funding, but also the potential impact it could have on polling. When we poll students, we also reduce the number of FTEs we have for those local schools. So yes, you might have a pool of teachers coming from Cambridge, from all over the country, but then that could potentially leave us with teachers in Nebo and in Provo that do not have jobs. And those are my two main concerns. So at this point, I appreciate all the work that you've done, and I appreciate the potential for this, but I personally won't be able to support this waiver with time and following the rule. And so districts can potentially look at that, like Deputy Superintendent Jones, so they can financially plan for it. I think it puts our districts in a better place to prepare for that. So that's where I stand. Thank you.
Thank you. Not seeing any lights. I just want to comment. 9 years is a long time to wait for an approval of a charter. And I'm not saying that's the system. I'm not saying that there weren't delays that were avoidable or unavoidable. But 9 years is a long time. I have family that live in the Provo School District who are very unhappy with the education they're receiving in their assigned district school. They have asked me numerous times about options. And I want to stress that one of the things, I guess my vote is going to be in support of this for three primary reasons. Yesterday, board member Hall and I had the opportunity of speaking with the school board, state school board representative over this area where your school's going to be. And I try to do that because I think that they have maybe better, maybe more comprehensive insights than us. You know, I'm up there in Weber Ogden. And I can read the papers, I can read the submissions, but he's boots on the ground. And he spoke very favorably, and I don't know at the end of the day if he's going to support your application or not, but he spoke very favorably of your outreach, of your efforts, of you taking the time to address concerns. And that carries a lot of weight with me. So I want to thank you for doing that. Two, I think it's significant that Provo School District did not file or have someone here today either to speak in favor of or against your application. They were certainly aware because the rule requires that they be notified. And if these concerns weighed heavily on them, I am convinced, knowing those individuals, that they would have been here and they would have made their voice known. Now, you can also make the argument that since they're not here, they're not celebrating the opening of the possible opening of Cambridge Preparatory Academy. But I think it's significant that they are not here, nor did they file or request public comment or a submission. They may do that before the full board, I don't know, but I know that it's not here today. And finally, I would just like to point out that a waiver is not a deviation or departure from our rules. Our rules have waiver built into it as part of this process. It is designed to be there to address situations, I believe, like this. So today, I will be supporting this application to move it forward to the board. I will say that there are concerns that were raised today, which I think are significant. Should this pass the committee today, I would ask you to please re-listen to what was said today, digest the concerns that were raised, because those will be amplified before the full board. And in no way does my vote today represent how I may vote in 30 days before the full board. I do want to point out one thing, which is you did request that this matter proceed directly to the full board, that it skip this committee. I just want to put on the record that I'm very grateful to our leadership for denying that request, because I believe that it's important that at the committee level, we have the opportunity to delve into these issues, to really drill down on concerns. And we wouldn't have had that opportunity before the full board. So with that, I will make a motion, and that motion is that the committee approve Cambridge Preparatory Academy's request for a waiver from R277-552 and forward to the board for approval. All those in favor? I'm sorry, Board Member Longacre.
Yeah, sorry, I wasn't aware that our committee was going to potentially be skipped for this kind of decision. I would have liked to have known that previously. I will be approving or voting yes on this, but yeah, it doesn't dictate how I'm going to vote in a month from now. Just wanted to put that on record.
Not seeing any other lights. The motion before the committee is that the committee approve Cambridge Preparatory Academy's request for a waiver from R277-552 and forward to the board for approval. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? No. And so let's just do a roll call vote. Board Member Lear? No. Vice Chair Bollinger? Board Member Longacre? Board Member Hall? And I am aye, so that passes 3-2. Thank you. Do we still need the digital version of the slides? Okay. And then, Mr. Lockhart, if you could send a digital version of the slides to Deputy Super and... Oh, okay. It's all worked out. Thank you. Okay. Why don't we just take well, Matt likes 7 minutes. Let's just do a 7-minute break. That was a long process. Thank you. Okay, I'd like to welcome everyone back from the break. There is a quorum present. And let's go back to item 3.2 on the agenda. This is the Box Elder School District, Snowville Elementary, Grouse Creek Elementary, and Park Valley Elementary waiver request renewal. And I believe AAG Beal is going to cue this up again, and that we do have a representative of Box Elder School District online.
Okay, yes, just a quick reminder that this is a waiver under R277-121 of the requirement for 180 school days in order to implement a 4-day school week at Snowville Elementary, Grouse Creek Elementary, and Park Valley Elementary, which are the 3 most rural schools in Box Elder District. And I believe we have Karina online.
Thank you, AAG. Thank you, AAG Beal. And Executive Director, is it Fife?
Yes.
Okay, Executive Director Fife, would you like to add anything to AAG Beal's introduction?
I don't know unless, I mean, I haven't done this before, so if you'd like me to add anything, I would, but no, I don't have anything beyond that.
I don't see any questions for the committee, but I do have 1 or 2 that I would just to lead off with. Can you hear us okay?
Yes.
Okay.
I just turned it up a little.
So it looks like you have 3 waivers currently dating back to 2015, 2017, and 2021. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah.
And I did appreciate the data that you submitted. One thing was interesting to me, and it looks like you already have very robust attendance in your schools. Before the waiver and even after the waiver, as you noted in your application, there was an uptick. I never want to call having 5, 6, 1 or 2 more students in school minor, but it wasn't a huge jump in terms of attendance because I think you were already at a very strong baseline.
Yes.
Do you feel that that increase was attributable to going to the 4-day week, or were there other factors at play there that maybe just aren't manifest in your application?
No, I do think the 4-day week is a big tribute, and out there it is a huge amount of an uptick because we're talking very small numbers out there. I would like to say one thing is, and when we did go to public comment on this, they thought we were coming out, we just, wanted to follow the protocols and hear what they had to say about the 4-day work week, and the community out there were looking at not offering it or not supporting it as a district from the district level when that wasn't our intent at all. And we had a great number of people turn out, and 100% of the people that we had turn out at each location were in favor of this because of the remoteness of where they live and the fact that they don't have a day where they can travel into an area where they can buy groceries or go to the doctor or things like that without, a 2-hour commute.
And I also noticed that you indicated, and I'm curious about this because my assumption always was when you go to the 4-day week that you're going to save you're going to see a bump in the amount of money that you're saving. And you said, look, were there savings? Yes, but, and negligible is my word, not yours. But if schools are looking to make this transition from a 5-day instructional week to a 4-day, it doesn't appear, and not just from your submission, but other submissions that this committee has reviewed, that there is a substantial monetary upside to that. Can you explain to the committee why that isn't happening? Not suggesting that it should be, but why isn't there this bump?
Well, from my point of view perspective, and like I said, I've been the HR director for just over a year. So this is from Karina's point of view with this information that I'm providing. But we have our paras staying longer. We've extended the school day. And so our ESP classified staff that are there, they're there for a longer period of time. So are our certified staff. So there's no money savings in that area of taking off that additional day. And then I know that from talking to other HR directors who've considered something like this, they wanted to hold their kitchen staff, custodians, those type of people harmless. And I'm not sure what Box Elder did when this originally started years ago, so that they could continue to, make the amount of money versus feeling cut by that one day. So you still have all of your costs for operating a school. They're still there the same number of hours by extending their Monday through Thursday days. So I don't think you see that cost savings that you might think that you would when you look at the personnel piece of that and being equitable with those employees that work out there.
Thank you. Before I turn it over to the committee, I just have one final question, and that is, it's clear that the 4-day instructional week has generous support from the community, from the educators. My question is, as you listen, what is the 1 or 2 biggest concerns about the 4-day instructional week that you are hearing?
Honestly, and this is being honestly, they did not bring up a concern with it. From my standpoint at a district level, I guess a struggle that would be for a singleton teacher to PLC, because we offer PLCs in the secondary on Fridays here. And so they've been logging in on a Friday and we've been giving her a stipend for that. It affects one teacher that I'm talking about that does it in secondary out there and has to log in. But the elementary ones, they do their PLCs Tuesdays and Thursdays and they're able to. That's honestly the only complaint or concern that has been brought to my attention.
Thank you. I see Board Member Lear has her light on, and then Vice Chair Ballinger.
I do, and then now that Amanda's asking questions, I won't make a motion, but in full disclosure, I used to do legal work with Box Elder. It's been several years, so I don't feel like there's any conflict, but I experienced firsthand some of the challenges that Box Elder went through with employees that are such a distance from bigger cities, families who had transportation issues. And in my opinion, this is the example of, and one of the earliest examples of a waiver, but this is exactly why I usually favor 4-day work waivers when they have to do with geography and distance, because it was just so difficult for these families and students to be able to accomplish what they needed to during the week, and their participation in athletics is dramatically limited anyway, and this made activities and athletics more available to them. So this is, in my mind, the exact kind of a waiver of the 5-day week that should be approved. And I very much support it. I think that Box Elder has struggled to find qualified teachers to be there and has mostly been successful, to the credit of the school district. And it was, again, in recalling my previous work with them, was largely because they could offer the teachers, the employees, some of the same advantages that the students and families had. And it's just necessary in a very remote area like this. So I very much support this continued waiver.
Thank you, Board Member Lear. Vice Chair Ballinger.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, if I may just direct a couple of questions to Executive Director Fife. One, and Board Member Lear kind of brought this up as far as teachers. How has this impacted teacher retention? We know it's hard in remote areas. Just curious to know what the faculty, how that's impacted your faculty.
Yeah, it is hard to keep them out there, especially if they are a single teacher, because we actually have a teacher right now who's requested a transfer from there because she is single and living out there and doesn't feel like she has a dating life. So, which is a concern, for her. And so, that there are challenges that it presents for sure for being out where it is, but we try to do our best to, accommodate and help and work with those who are willing to take this on. And, there are those who prefer to be out there because they like the lifestyle, the ranching type lifestyle that's out there, but they are few and far between and hard to find good certified staff out there.
Thank you. And Chair,
I've been able to.
Okay, good. One more follow-up, if I may. One other question. I mean, coming from the special ed world, I always like to know how is this impacting services for students with disabilities?
Yeah, so we have instructional coaches who are signed out there, and they do go out there and help with them. This year we had a student that had some concerns that we had to hire a para-educator out there to be with this student all of the time. So we still ensure the special ed is met, and I also was a special ed teacher before going into administration, and I know that the district makes sure that we're following their IEP plan and their behavior intervention plan as we would in any location.
Thank you.
Vice Chair Board Member Longacre.
I appreciate the the step up in my title. Thank you. I don't deserve it, but thank you. I do have a question. So with the amount of kids that you have in your school, a normal day is a lot of the time is spent trying to get their attention and trying to get them back to focus. But because you have such small classroom sizes, do you really still feel the need to hit that 990 hours of school?
Well, that's a good question, and I honestly feel like the principal would be better to speak to that than I would to speak to that. But I know that it helps because at least with the daily stuff, a lot of the classes for our secondary stuff, we broadcast out to there. So like students out in Park Valley can take a health class from our health teacher at Bear River Middle School, and they do it remotely. They broadcast out to them. They're there to answer any questions for them and help them. So, I know it's extending their day a little bit longer, and that's a good question, but one that I should take up with the principal instead of trying to answer that on my own.
Oh, no, you're fine, but thank you.
Are you ready to make okay, not seeing any other lights. We're ready for a motion.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to make a motion that the committee approve Box Elder School District, Snowville Elementary, Grouse Creek Elementary, and Park Valley Elementary request for a waiver renewal from R277-419-4 and forward to the board for approval.
The motion before the committee is that the committee approve Box Elder School District, Snowville Elementary, Grouse Creek Elementary, and Park Valley Elementary request for a waiver renewal from R277-419-4 and forward to the board for approval. All those in favor? Aye. That passes unanimously. Thank you. And thank you very much for joining the committee this morning.
Thank you.
The next matter we have on the agenda is item 3.4, and that is Lake Mountain School District Charter School Authorizers application. And this is a new application request. Vice Chair Bollinger has expressed that there is a conflict for her on this matter, and she has recused herself from the proceeding. I think that, is it Joy Lynn Lincoln will be addressing the committee on this matter?
Good morning. I'm Melissa Saucer from the Lake Mountain School Board. I'm going to begin our remarks today. Thank you, Chair Carrie, and members of the committee. We're grateful to be here today. We're grateful for the work that you do to ensure strong oversight and accountability within Utah's educational system. Lake Mountain School District is launching a new district during a time of significant growth in our communities. From the beginning, our board has focused on ensuring a successful launch with strong systems in place from day one, while also building a district that is ready for the future. Because we are building those systems now, we believe this is the appropriate time to establish a thoughtful framework for charter authorizers rather than trying to add it later. Doing so allows us to ensure that all schools serving students in our community operate within a clear structure of accountability from day one. Our approach to authorizing is grounded in our district's core values. We are data-driven, meaning decisions about charter approval and oversight will be based on clear academic, financial, and governance performance measures. We value collaboration, and we believe charter schools and districts can work together as a part of a strong public education system serving all students and families. We recognize that authorizing requires courageous leadership, approving schools only when they demonstrate strong capacity and being willing to act if expectations are not met. We are committed to embracing difficult conversations, including transforming what has sometimes been viewed as a competition between districts and charters into a strategic partnership focused on student success. Talk about those difficult conversations as we want to be able to serve all kids in our community, and sometimes the public school isn't the best fit. Hopefully, with having the ability to authorize a charter, we can work together in a partnership. Charter schools have historically served as laboratories of innovation within public education, exploring new instructional models and approaches. One of our goals as an authorizer is not only to oversee those schools responsibly, but also to learn from their successful innovations that can strengthen education across our entire community. Our board is an elected board, directly accountable to the families and committees we serve. That local accountability provides an important layer of oversight and transparency as we carry out the responsibilities of charter authorizing. Our goal is simple: to build a portfolio of high-quality schools that reflect the needs of our community while maintaining strong accountability for student outcomes and stewardship of public funds.
And I am Joylyn Lincoln. I'm also a member of the board at Lake Mountain the Board of Education for Lake Mountain School District. This was heard by our board at 2 board meetings, the latest one being February 26th, and both times it was supported unanimously by all board members. And I am now open to answering any questions you may have.
Board Member Longacre?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see a problem with them being a charter authorizer as long as it's only in their district. You guys know your district better than others, and I think it would be kind of odd to approve a charter in a district that you're not in or aware of or kind of know the ins and outs. So that's just my comment. No question, just a comment.
And
Thank you.
I was just going to say, and we 100% agree. State statute would allow us to potentially authorize across the state, and we have no intention of ever expanding beyond our district. And it is in our documentation.
Board Member Lear?
I have a few questions, if that's okay, just more in the spirit of discussion. I'm really, I was interested in reading this. I talked to Joy Lynn yesterday. She's very seasoned and very knowledgeable about the charter world. And this whole area of new school districts is pretty new for all of us, and will undoubtedly pose some questions and some concerns and some challenges for all of us. So I don't want to be at all casual about saying this is going to be an easy thing and it's just natural, and I think it's going to make it challenging. Having said that, my experience in working with school districts who've chartered schools the structure used to be different. Now it's much more structured, and the process is more maybe overly robust in terms of applying to be an authorizer. So, but my experience in that has been the very best and strongest and most stable charter schools are those chartered by school districts, because they have a infrastructure. Typically, the buildings are better and just built to last a little longer than typical. Sometimes no offense to charter schools that exist that are doing an excellent job and have excellent facilities, but I like the ones that are chartered by districts. So I really like that aspect of it a ton. And I'm also a real fan of the fact that you're trying to do something different. I mean, just right from the get-go, you're trying to involve charter. And I hope that the language will evolve to traditional schools or neighborhood schools and charter schools, and not ever have to call them public schools and charter schools, because they're all public schools. So the language, I think, is really important. So just with that little rant, let me just ask a couple of questions. How do you have any idea of how many schools you're intending to charter right in the beginning?
So Lake Mountain School District is a very unique school district in the state, and will be. We are growing at about 1,000 students a year. And so that growth is long-term as well.
You expect it to be long.
Yes, all indicators make it that way. An example of that is Orem had a boom of education growth, and that lasted about 20 years. We are now 20 years since a school has been built in the Lake Mountain school district boundaries, and that growth has not slowed down. It has been a school a year since then. So we don't have a magic number of schools that we want to authorized right out the gate, but we are talking about 2 different schools in 2 different areas of the district currently, and just seeing how that plays out with the communities. Both of the schools are very different. One would be potentially a Waldorf type school in our rural area, where they really focus on the heart, the mind, and hands, and making sure they're spending time gardening and raising animals and doing things that are important to their rural lifestyle. And that's a model that would fit into that area. We have another area that is growing. We did a boundary change as Alpine School District. There is some overlay in the 2 districts currently. We did that on Tuesday, and it affected 5 schools, and one of the schools and one of the maps projected to hit 1,500 students. And that's an elementary school. That's not a junior high. And some of the parents in that area said, you know what we really would like is a dual language immersion school in our area. And we believe that there's a lot of interest in a dual language immersion program. And if that was done as a charter school, then that would also help those surrounding neighborhood boundaried schools with their enrollment structures. We anticipate when we take the reins of the educational opportunities for the students residing in Lake Mountain School District in 2028, that we will have 4 to 5 elementary schools with over 1,000 students at them. And so those are just 2 areas we're looking at of potential charter ideas.
And a couple more, if that's okay. I looked on, reading through your application, which is excellent, by the way, very
Thank you.
thorough, very well written, and very easy to follow and read, and that was appreciated. At one point, you're suggesting that these schools would be online. I wasn't quite clear if the charters you expect, what the schools you expect to charter would be online, hybrid, in person. Do you have a expectation about that, or is that something you're just waiting to see?
We will meet the needs of the students in the area, and some students thrive better in an online environment. I know the daily struggles with my own 15-year-old to get her out the door every morning are immense, and some days I win and some days she wins in her attendance. But if it was online, she would be in class a lot more often. So there are a unique set of students that do thrive in an online environment. However, as we went through the COVID years, we also discovered that not all students thrive in an online environment, and that being in person is actually very valuable for students. And so if there is a need for an online school, then we would look at that time. But we do not have one in our thoughts as we move into this, nor has anybody approached us about it. It is just we wanted to make sure that we were clear of the different opportunities that potentially could be brought before us.
Okay. And then one final, these are all interrelated, sorry about that, but I was interested in, and I said to you yesterday, and I still am wrestling with the fact that you're going to open a new school district. New administrators haven't worked together before. I know they're familiar to each other, but it's going to be a big challenge. And so taking on this whole different charter aspect is compounds the challenge. Are you anticipating as a school district designating a number, and I'm wondering what that number might be? Are you going to have people who are assigned to the charter schools as specific administrators, or what will that look like that you may have thought through?
So as a school district, we are being very intentional in our district offers hiring and the process that we're doing from that. And we are starting out lean very intentionally. We want to push as many resources at the Lake Mountain School District into the classrooms as possible. So that means as we look at authorizing that it will be assigned to somebody in the district office. Where that lands, we're still negotiating where that's going to land. But what I can commit, and we commit as a Lake Mountain district, that as needs at the district office rise, then we will hire appropriately at that time. But we are starting out lean, and then we'll expand as needed. So if we have 15 schools knocking on our door saying that we would like to authorize with you, that's going to require a full-time person dedicated to authorization. If we have just one school, then that can reside just as a responsibility of somebody on the district leadership team. And we will meet that as the district evolves and grows, but that responsibility will start in the district office with a person's as an assignment to include all of their other assignments. And then as that need grows, then we will expand it. It's easier to expand out than put a genie back in a box.
Sure. And then one last question. Do you, I just hope I didn't lose my train of thought. Do you anticipate, or maybe you can tell me the functions that would work for both the charters in your district and then the traditional schools? Like, for instance, you're going to have an HR department that oversees both?
So we anticipate including all of that in our charter contractual agreements with our charter schools. And we'll have a menu that they can kind of choose from. We do realize that charter boards have their own board and they have that autonomy, but we also want to provide things. Some things that we've discussed is we really would love for charters were always billed as laboratories of innovation and opportunities for school districts to learn from that. And the history of the Utah charter movement doesn't show that innovation coming back into districts as well as we would have liked to have seen. So we want to make sure that with our employees at both the district and the charter side, that it's the same pay scale, the same step and ladder, and that school or teachers can move back and forth. And by having that as part of the agreement, that allows that innovation to come back into district schools, and that allows some of our employees in our, and I don't like saying district, I want to say boundary schools, because that's the difference. One has a boundary and one has a lottery. Those boundary schools, then if we have really innovative people, then we can move them in and let them innovate in a sandbox and then bring that back out. And so we see that, but we will curtail that in the agreement and we will spell it out. Accountability is very important and foundational to the Lake Mountain School District, and that will be very spelled out in each charter agreement. And then we do not anticipate ever putting that charter agreement on a shelf and never looking at it again, that accountability is reviewed. And as it is inked, it is also inked on when it comes up as board agendas for the Lake Mountain School District. So it's always in our forward thinking that we are always working on that.
Thank you. And thank you so much for your good preparation and your excellent answers. And I just want to say I'm not necessarily the one to make the motion, but I'm going to take a leap into uncertainty and support this, and because I think it is the right thing to do. I am sometimes somewhat concerned, and well, I'm concerned about a lot of the kind of nuts and bolts aspects of this, but I'm also, I would have to maybe take issue with you and think and say that I'm kind of disappointed that the charter movement has not moved more to be more innovative. It has moved more to sometimes this, and found the same problems, only heightened, that traditional schools have found. So I hope that you move into more innovative opportunities and really show us that that's what charters can do. In fact, even the point was it used to be in the code and that language was removed because I think I kept saying it too many times. It doesn't say that charters have to be innovative anymore, and yet I look for them to do that and experiment, and I hope you will do that. So I cautiously support this and hope that you will be successful in this.
Thank you.
That's my question.
Board Member Longacre.
I'm not vice chair anymore.
No. Short-lived.
No, I'll be really quick. So just a couple of things that you said is that you said teachers will move back and forth between charter and your district school. So does that mean your teachers in your charter school will be licensed?
Absolutely. Licensing, I'm an educator. Licensing is very important to me. Students don't get do-over years if they don't have licensed and highly qualified teachers. And I said that they would have the opportunity and we would build that as a framework, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they would, but that opportunity lies there.
Okay. And then this might be a question for Deputy Superintendent Scott Jones, if you don't mind. Do districts get a kickback for being an authorizer? I'm sorry. Well, substitute that word, and this is new territory for me, so I'm sorry if I'm asking questions that people already know.
Chair. Maybe perhaps is there an incentive for, or, but please, Deputy Jones.
Chair, the answer is no. There's no incentive on the part of an individual gain to them other than allowing an extension of choice or a school, but they're under the same requirements for funding as anyone else is, even if they were open just a school of their own within the district, not a chartered school. So does that help answer that question? There's no individual incentives or anything.
Okay, thanks. And last question. When a district would approve a charter, do they take on liability if it fails, if they have financial struggles? I just don't want any burden to come on us if the charter fails.
Chair, if I may, the agreement is between the authorizer, i.e. the district, and the charter school. So all requirements of the charter school's performance are at the oversight of the district, and they are responsible for that. Now, if there's issues with funding, though, especially as it relates to federal funding, the federal government holds the state education agency responsible in that aspect. Okay, so I just want to distinguish that. But as it relates to state funding, local funding, the local replacement fund, any of those aspects, operations, licensing, those types of things, then yes, the district oversees that. So,
Okay.
and is
thank-
responsible.
Thank you.
Thank you. I want to echo what was said by the committee. I really appreciate the depth of your application. I believe charters serve a vital and important role in the public education system and framework. And so I'm always excited when there's another authorizer who is willing to come up and assume that work. I just have a couple questions. You currently are on the Alpine Board of Education. How many charters are within the boundaries of the Alpine School District today?
If you'll give me just a sec, I'll make a list.
But just how many charters are operating there today?
Oh, nobody's going to hold me. I'm like, if I have to give an exact number, I'm going to make a
Oh.
geographical map, and it's going to take me 3 or 4 minutes to work through that. I'm going to say it's 20 to 30-ish.
Okay.
Maybe I should interject what you wanted to say.
And does the district share any of its information with the Alpine School District students with any of those 20 to 30 charters today?
Do we share academic and individual information?
Promotional information. So if a charter comes to you and says, hey, we want to solicit your students, do
So
you share any of that data?
We have a
Non-solicitation?
No, that's not a non-solicit. We have a opportunity for people in our community. Say if you run a karate studio or a basketball team, or you have a really good thing that you want to get out to the members, we have a service that they can opt in, and there's a fee, and then an email is sent out, and a charter school could work through that system. It's called Peach Jar, and they could work through that system and navigate out. Do we share our email list with another charter school? We have to be very careful with FERPA regulations on that, so we tend to use that other marketing opportunity that's available for the community as a whole.
So I didn't know if that was a yes or a no.
It's
So-
a yes-ish, no-ish.
Okay.
So yes, there's opportunities for them to utilize
but Joylyn,
our email list.
if I could, are you aware as a member of the board for Alpine School District, does Alpine School District share any of that marketing information, that email list, with any of those 20 to 30 charters?
No, we do not share the list. We would push the email out ourselves.
And have you done that on behalf of a charter?
I am not aware of a charter that has asked to be a participant in that. I know that there has been negotiations and discussions with some charters about having an access and having us give them our email list, and that we have not done.
And would you be comfortable sharing that list of charters who have asked you for that assistance with this committee?
I would be purely speculating on who has asked for that list. It is not something that has come across my email as a board member, but I would anticipate that potentially UCAS would be one of the schools that would have asked for that list at some point.
Okay, thank you. And then the Lake Mountain School District, does that have a board that is up and running?
Yes, we do. We were sworn in November, so we are now 3.5 months in, and we meet every other week.
Congratulations. How many of your current board members have served as administrators in charter schools?
None of our current board members have served as administrators in charter schools. 2 of our current board members have served on boards of charter schools. One of our board members has served as an administrator in a boundary district school.
And then if we could call this up, Deputy Newey, I'm going to go to their charter school request for satellite school document dated February 26, 2026. And I just had some questions about this. In particular, as I was reading this document on page 2, and as I understand this, if you're authorizing a school already, a charter school, and they want to open up a satellite, you want the following information. And I just have questions about the information that you want from these charter schools to help me better understand the why. You ask for the percentage of students who are an ethnic or racial minority. Why would you need that information from the charter for you to grant an approval for a satellite?
I suspect that's probably just a hangover from past years when that has been an issue. And so just having that data, also as you just chart graphs and delineate outcomes, it's easy to see when we're looking at the academic performance to ensure that they're making adequate gains across all of their subgroups in their school.
Now, you do ask for separately in a different part of your process and procedures for that information in terms of academics. This is for a satellite expansion, and it doesn't say, it just says racial minorities. So you're not concerned about the academic progress of individuals who don't fall into the category of racial minority? Like,
No.
why are you specifically saying racial minority when there's a whole bunch of students, presumably the majority?
I think we're wanting for the majority and then just making sure that the subgroups, I included that into this application in case a charter school that existed outside of our district wanted to come and provide a satellite that they wanted us to authorize. So this would be a satellite from a different authorization agency. If they were in an internal one, we would already have that data.
Okay, so you're saying that you really are concerned about the academic performance of all students. But
And
this,
especially making sure that all students are making adequate progress. And oftentimes that is not the case, unfortunately.
and in order to measure that effectively, you're saying the best way to do that is by this language of ethnic or racial minority.
That was the way that came to me on a random day in February. I am happy to entertain other opportunities to gather that same type of data.
Okay, and again, this isn't a committee request, this would be my request, but I would ask if there's a better, perhaps more effective way of doing that. Being, Korean, Korean American, I look at that and I wonder, are they looking for enough Koreans, not enough Koreans in these schools? And I would hope that, and I don't think that's the case, but I think this could be worded more effectively.
I will resubmit the language on that. I will submit a draft to you and then submit it back to the body as a whole.
And my second question is tied to the first, and it deals with the second point, which is the percentage of students with disabilities who qualify for special education services or a 504 plan. Are you just looking for the percentage of students with disabilities, or are you asking for a breakdown of the type of disability?
We're just looking for a percentage of disabilities, and we're looking for that to double check across their budget to make sure that they have adequate support in their budget so that we can make sure that those students' needs are being. So it's just a double check across. Here's what they're saying in their narrative. Does that also pan out in what the budget that they've presented is to make sure that students are getting the adequate support they need?
And again, here we talk about number 3, the percentage of economically disadvantaged students. And what I looked through your application, I couldn't find a definition for economically disadvantaged students. what does that phrase mean? Like, what is the threshold? What are you looking for?
So on that one, we're looking for students that qualify for free and reduced lunches. And the reason that that's an important question to ask is oftentimes a charter school chooses not to have a cafeteria and provide lunch. And so if they have a high number of students that would qualify for free and reduced lunch, then we need to make sure that there's an adequate way that those students can access food opportunities during their school day.
So it's your understanding the definition of economically disadvantaged students are those students who qualify for that program?
Yep.
Okay. And again, number 4, and I'm just again trying to get a better understanding, the percentage of students who are learning English.
Again, using that as a double check in the narrative to the budget, if they have a high percentage of multilanguage learners, making sure that their budget supports the resources that those students are going to need.
How do you define, I mean, we teach English all the time, right? So we're all learning English in a way, but I don't think that's who you're trying to
No,
capture.
we're capturing students that are qualified in and that would then need to pass the WIDA. So those students that are learning English as a second language and they're fluent, usually having had most of their educational opportunities in the primary language not being English.
And is that defined anywhere in your submission?
No, we did not define it in the submission.
I think that might be in.
But
one of
that
our
should be a
rule
state statute
definitions.
and a rule definition.
Okay.
There's also a federal definition, Chair.
You have a lot of support. So number 5, it talks about the academic performance of students who would be entering the school. And this is what I don't understand. So you said number 1, the ethnic and racial minority was designed around this academic performance piece, but then you specifically come in and call it out. So help me better understand the intertwining of those two areas.
I think, again, it's just the repetition and making sure that academics is strong. As we look at the Lake Mountain School Board, we are not just interested in innovation for innovation's sake. We are interested in innovation for student success. We look at the academic performance of students in the Lake Mountain school boundaries today as the floor, that from now on, we will continue to rise and to grow in all of our educational opportunities. And we want to make sure that we have baselines of where students are at and then that we continue to see that increase. We're not interested in staying stagnant or the status quo. We want all students to have educational opportunities of high success. And again, that's why we establish it as a floor, not as a standard to be met, but as a floor that we are going to meet and exceed.
Okay, thank you. And I don't know if you're in a position to answer this or not, but one of my concerns is when you have the state charter school board approving a charter, there's no financial stake there, right? It's not that they're gaining a student or losing a student, but with a district, it's different. I didn't see anything in your documentation indicating that charter schools, whether you're the authorizer or someone else, would be treated the same in terms of access to, if you say, look, we're going to give our student marketing data to the charters that we approve, would you do that for those that you don't approve? Or would you say, and I believe you'd be within your rights to say we're not going to do it for those we don't approve, but would you treat the charters that you approve as a district, would you treat the other charters equally that you don't authorize?
So we believe as a Lake Mountain School Board that we have been voted for the educational opportunities for all students that reside within our district. So we want to be an authorizer, but we also already have partnerships with our existing charter schools. We meet regularly with some of them as they get ready to open about their student enrollment numbers so that we're never caught off guard. We strategically meet with charter schools that have just been approved so that we're not building on top of them. So both their school and our district boundary school can thrive and have the enrollment we need. An example of that is yesterday afternoon I attended the state charter school board, and we are and then last night at our board meeting we are entering into an MOU with a charter school where they will rent some space as they do a soft launch of their program. So again, providing opportunities within our limited resources to help them flourish, and they are not authorized by us currently.
and maybe I missed it, but my question was, because I don't see it anywhere in your application, would you treat those charters that you authorize the same way as you would a charter that you didn't authorize? Would they be given the same access to data? Would they be given the same opportunities to? So I guess the example I'm thinking of, if this would help, is that there's a parcel of land that would be perfect for a charter school. And now you have one charter that's authorized by the state charter school board, one authorized by the district. There's only one parcel of land, so only one of them can build there. Would those two applicants be treated exactly the same in their process, or is the thumb just a little bit on the scale of the one that you've authorized? And again, I don't think it's illegal to give the advantage to the one you authorize. I just want to know
So
your policy.
I would anticipate that we will work with all schools and that we will create those opportunities. One of the advantages we see with us as an authorizer is that in their authorization application, their charter school agreement and application, we can actually waive in the MOUs of places where we're going to share services or contractual agreements as part of their charter agreement, where a charter school that is not authorized by us wouldn't have that in their charter agreement. I would love to say that we would treat them equal, but I also am a parent, and I'd love to say I treat all of my 6 children equal. But if we asked any of my 6 children on any given day, they would absolutely say that at different times, different ones appear to be favorites.
And one thing I didn't see in your process is, and it's very detailed, and I appreciate that, and I'm sure the charter applicants will appreciate that. It says that you have a preliminary meeting, which I think is fantastic. Then you have an actual meeting, and then a decision is made as to whether or not you will authorize. What I didn't see is, if there's a decision not to authorize, what correspondence, if any, will be sent to that applicant saying you were denied because of these reasons? Are you planning on sending something like that, or would it just be it didn't work out and try again?
I believe clear communication is honest and fair communication. So whether that communication came via the board meeting itself, via a written communication, via a phone call, I can't say specifically, but I would anticipate that we would be very clear, and this is what we struggled with. And, if you brought your application back, please make sure that these are the issues that are addressed. But again, we are centering our authorization in high expectations, and making sure that we're increasing our educational opportunities. So if somebody brought a model that never showed educational gains, that would be something we would not be interested in authorizing, and would be clear that we are only anticipating authorizing institutions that will have high educational opportunities and gains.
And would you be opposed, and again, this is not a request from the committee nor myself at this point, but would you be willing to include that in your policy, that, look, denials, they would receive something in writing outlining why it was denied?
Absolutely. I love writing policy,
Well, we
so
had that
I will
discussion.
just do that.
Okay, I want to thank you. And again, I am going to support your application, but I did have those concerns, and I see that there's lights on from Board Member Lear, so I'm going to see what questions she has, and then there's 2 areas that I thought I found this morning that I wasn't able to find while we were Q&Aing, so let me see if I can do that. But Board Member Lear.
I just wanted to provide context on a couple of issues. First of all, and this is not to say that I am a fan of districts authorizing schools, and I said that already, being charter school authorized, because I think it gives the charter. I said this before, but I'll briefly repeat, the some infrastructure and some stability that seems to be lacking in a lot of schools. So I am a tremendous fan of that. But one example was your questioning of how do you treat those schools you charter. Literally, when you charter a school, they become part of your LEA. So under FERPA, for instance, that means you can share information because it is part of your LEA. And so, yes, by definition of an LEA and federal law, you can treat those schools that you charter differently than other charter schools in your area. And I just think that was kind of an important thing to point out. And then as to I also got a little, stumbled a little when I was reading the stuff about satellite schools, because it didn't seem like what you were asking to do would involve satellite schools. In your explanation, your answer to Chair Carey was really helpful. But I think maybe the more important point I wanted to make is when you present this authorization packet, you have to put a piece in about satellite schools, even if it's not what you anticipate doing. So I think it is more formulaic for you and less important, at least for me, what that looks like. Although now that you make that point, I guess it's possible you could have a satellite and be asked to authorize it, although it would seem odd that it would be a different authorizer for one school versus the original school. So I looked at that more as a hoop you had to jump through and not something that was really that significant. So I wanted to add those particular pieces of context. Thanks, and I appreciated your answers also. And then, Aaron, did you still have that question? Okay, all right.
Board Member Bollinger, we are ready for a motion. Oh, I think.
I'll make a motion.
You're ready for motion?
I move, yeah, and
Okay.
I appreciate the promotion, but especially because you're young and beautiful. But I move that the committee approve and I'm not sure exactly how that reads. I think you've got that. Approves the Lake Mountain School District's authorizer processes and forwards the processes to the board for approval.
Thank you. So the motion before the committee is that the committee approve Lake Mountain School District's authorizer processes and forwards the processes to the board for approval. All those in favor? Aye. That passes unanimously. Thank you. Thank you
Sure.
very much. Oh, wait.
We
have a,
Just for clarification, so understood, do they need to make any revisions though to, is there any expectation for any revisions to the documents that the committee has voted to push forward to the board?
no, and I appreciate that, Deputy Jones. The only, the observations I made were just my observations, and I tried to make that very clear that there was not formal request by the committee or myself, but just suggestions, and you can proceed as you would like. But thank you.
Okay, good. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, let's proceed to item 3.5, R277-102, Adjudicative Proceedings, Amendment and Continuation. And with that, we'll turn the time over to Director Rasmussen.
Thank you, Chair Carey. Ben Rasmussen, Director of Law and Professional Practices. We have two rules for the committee that are up for their 5-year review today. R277-102, we did get some recommendations from our AAGs that we should just make some minor changes to. And so as you look through that, you'll see that there were some changes to highlight and kind of make more clear what the hearing process should look like. I will just point out this is kind of a rule that's used only under limited circumstances. It's primarily if there's an appeal for like a corrective action plan or something like that. Has been used very rarely in the time that I've been at the board. So it sounds like there may be one hearing pending that will be using this rule, but just happy to answer any questions you have. Assistant AG Beal can help me with that as well. And just asking for approval of draft 1.
So, Director Rasmussen, I just have a few procedural questions.
Sure.
And I should have reached out to you sooner, but I was swamped under yesterday's items. But on line 60, it says that I believe it's the chair, the board chair, may designate a hearing panel. Could you help the committee better understand why that's a may and not a shall?
So I think you can either you could do it either by appointing a presiding officer to be the decision maker, or you can have a presiding officer that runs the hearing and you have a hearing panel that hears the evidence and makes the recommendation. So it would be.
But
is
in
that
line
what you
60,
would
it says
understand?
you may designate a hearing panel consisting of the presiding officer. So there'll always be a presiding officer.
Yes.
Why wouldn't there always be a panel, I guess is my, that's my question. So,
Because you could do it in one of two ways. You could do the hearing where the presiding officer just does everything, or you could do it where the presiding officer just makes evidentiary calls and you have a panel to make findings and make a recommendation to the board. I think it's anticipated that in most cases that would be a panel, but I think that will leave the choice with the board.
so could you help me understand what matters may come before, that would involve this rule so I could have a better understanding of. So one of my questions that I just need to resolve is, do I make a motion to change this from a may to a shall? Because and I get it, in some matters you only have a judge and there's no jury. Other matters you have a judge and a jury. And so I understand the philosophy. I just need to know what kind of matters would come up that would invoke this rule so I have a better understanding of, do we always need a panel or make it optional?
I think the example that you would be looking at right now is there's a appeal pending over a corrective action plan. And so there would be a hearing on that and take evidence as to whether the corrective action plan is appropriate. Most appeals that come before the board have their own separate rule processes, like UPAC, appeals involving the child nutrition program. I'm not sure, there's various other programs. SPED, for example, has their own procedures for appeals. So licensing has rules for their appeals as well. But this basically is kind of a catch-all. So if there's something that somebody wants to appeal to the board that there aren't separate rules for, this kind of outlines how we do it. But this corrective action plan appeal is probably the first time that we've used it in years. So that would probably be your best example, is an LEA challenging a corrective action plan that's been issued.
And eventually, whether it's just the hearing officer or the hearing officer and this panel, that recommendation is voted on by the full board.
Yeah, the full board would make the final determination.
And the full board would include these 3 panel members.
Yes.
Okay. And then I had one other question. And that's line 103 and 104. And I know this is a little in the weeds, but it says the presiding officer and members of the panel may not discuss the hearing publicly until the board discusses the panel recommendation in board meeting. And I think I understand what this means, which is certainly the presiding officer and the panelists are able to speak in private about the matter because they have to put a report together, make a recommendation, and then it's submitted to the board. But these 4 individuals, the 3 panelists and the hearing officer, can't make public comments until the board has issued its ruling. Is that correct?
Yes. Ashley, do you want to speak to that at all? That was Angie's recommendation to add here.
Yeah, I think you have that exactly correct. I think it's just kind of a procedural confidentiality, essentially, so that the members of the panel aren't speaking about it publicly before the board makes a final determination.
And that's the way I understand it. But my question is, and again, like in UPAC, even when we make a decision, we can't talk about that matter. So here it looks like after the board rules, if these 3 board members and the panelists want to talk publicly about the matter, they're permitted to. As I read this, they would be permitted to. Shouldn't it just say you wouldn't talk about it? Does that make sense, Director Rasmussen?
Well, with UPAC, for example, you can't talk about what's been discussed in the executive session, but there's nothing legally that says you can't go out after the board has voted on a matter and talk about it. It's just executive session discussions that are restricted because that's the way the law is designed. But the actual final vote, you conduct that vote in public, and you can talk about your reasons. You can talk about that in public. We don't make those documents public until the appeal process is run. But I think they're just trying to. I think Assistant Attorney General Doan was just trying to recognize the sensitivity that these hearings may have, and trying to keep that in the appropriate space until the board has decided.
Okay, so you're saying there's really nothing in statute or rule that says they can't talk about these things? Okay, thank you. I have no further questions. Board Member Lear?
Sorry, I had to exit for a moment, but I had just one question, and it comes up at the end of this rule, and I wondered if maybe it should be stated a little more clearly earlier on, and let me see if I can find it. I don't know that I wrote down the line. Maybe I did. It had to do with the board accepting this as a recommendation. Do you remember where that was, Ben? Because it says just kind of summarily later in the.
109, the board shall consider the recommendation.
Discuss, yes, maybe in 103, 101, 103 and 104, until the board discusses the panel recommendation in board meeting, but I thought there was a little more, there was a more explicit statement about this being a recommendation to the board. And maybe if it's, let me just ask the question and then we'll see if, and this is sincerely a question to you, the AAGs who prepared this. I'm just wondering if it needed to be clear in this rule that the process resulted in a recommendation to the final board, so the decision's not final until the board makes it final.
I think it's pretty clear if you look on lines 109 through 114 that the recommendation gets submitted to the board. The board can then either approve the recommendation or issue an alternate written determination based on the findings of fact.
Okay.
So I think that's pretty clear.
You think that's clear enough is what you're saying. I just wanted to give notice to anyone asking to use this proceeding that so that the person would understand or the entity would understand that it's not the final decision that comes out of this process. It's only a recommendation to the board. And if you think it's clear enough, then that's fine with me. Thanks. That's all I had. I'll make a motion if you'd like me to.
Yes,
And
please.
somebody else has line on. And give me the cheat sheet. I move that the committee approves R277-102 Adjudicative Proceedings, Draft 1, on first reading and forward to the board for approval on second and final reading.
The motion before the committee is that the committee approve R277-102 Adjudicative Proceedings, Draft 1, on first reading and forward to the board for approval on second and final reading. All those.
Now it needs to be continued. I'm thinking it needs to be continued in that motion also. That covers it. Thank you. Excuse me, Joe, for interrupting. So go ahead.
With that, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Let's move on to item 3.6, R277-309, Appropriate Licensing and Assignment of Teachers. This is before us on amendment and continuation. Director Rasmussen.
Yes, so this is another rule that's up for its 5-year review. This talks, as the title says, about licensing and assignments for teachers. Staff has recommended a few changes here. These changes clarify when LEAs should hire employees in the licensure process. Also implements recent legislation that took away licensing power from the board for audiologists and speech language pathologists, and has some clarifications about endorsements for the deaf and hard of hearing endorsement. Happy to answer any questions along with Executive Coordinator Height if you have any.
Vice Chair Bollinger.
Thank you, Chair. I actually don't have any questions about this specifically. I appreciate the work on this. I actually do have some proposed amendments to this rule. As a board, I know one of our goals in retaining qualified teachers is to simplify our licensing process. And there's some language in here that I think could be updated to just better support that goal and better support our teachers and honor them in their expertise. So if I may, Chair, unless other people want to make discussion items, I'd be ready to make some motions.
Please.
So my first motion would be that the committee strike line 58 and insert teacher supplies and materials under subsection 53F-2-527 paren 2 paren. This is the piece that I'm proposing to be struck is no longer applicable, and the language in context here.
So Elise, we have the language in context on the Google Doc if you just scroll below it.
Oh, see, they are so prepared.
I try.
Thank you, Ben. I appreciate this. So basically, this is saying that they have to be licensed to be able to receive the teacher supplies and material under that law. So it's just basically making sure that that's in compliance. And Dr. Hyde, I don't know if you or Director Rasmussen have anything else you wanted to add to that piece. I just want to make sure that we're saying on record what needs to be said.
Chair, if I may.
Please.
Malia Hyde, Executive Coordinator of Educator Licensing. Vice Chair Bollinger is correct. The program that was struck or is proposed to be struck was ended by the legislature in the 2025 legislative session. So it is no longer relevant, and the other program has not ever been added in the 5 years of this rule.
If I may, I just have one question, and this came up, I think, I forget where it came up, but do you know, Director Height, how many of our licensed educators have not received their legally required background check?
I can look, but we have very high compliance. If we have one or two, we usually get them fixed within a week. And that is typically, it's a technical issue between BCI's data system and our data systems. But we have, at this moment, I am aware of 0.
Okay, so in your opinion, this is not an issue that needs to be addressed?
No.
Okay. With that, though, let me ask you about this change. No, you answered it with your statement. Thank you. Please, Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chair. So that's my motion. I don't know if anybody has questions or concerns, but that concludes my motion for this portion.
So the motion before the committee is that the committee strike line 58 and insert teaching supplies and materials under subsection 53F-2-527 paren 2. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes unanimously. Vice Chair Bollinger.
Thank you, Chair. I have another motion that after, we insert after line 92, B, for an educator assigned to teach a career and technical education class, a secondary or career technical education license area of concentration with 1, the appropriate endorsement, or 2, 3 years of related occupational experience within the relevant career cluster. The reason that I'm proposing this change is when we talk about licensing, I know that as a board, we've made some adjustments to our endorsement portion, meaning that if a teacher is trying to get an endorsement, there's different pathways for that, including some qualified experience. What this would do is this would allow a teacher, and the example I guess maybe I can give that many of us have heard is, for example, Member Kelly, who is a teacher. He's been teaching a class on finance literacy for several years. He came from industry as a financial planner. Under our current rule, to teach a class that's labeled as a CTE financial class, he would have to go back and get a endorsement in CTE. This change would allow him, because he's already a licensed teacher, with that exception with the 3 years of related occupational experience, would allow him to be highly qualified to teach that class. So when we talk about trying to retain teachers, we have several teachers that are highly qualified in lots of areas. This would make sure that either they have to get their endorsement, or if they've shown that they have experience in that, then they would be qualified to teach that class. And that's the reason for this proposed change. Thank you, Chair.
Board Member Longacre.
Yeah, I just have a question. How come it's 3 and not 2 or 4? Is there?
Dr. Height.
Is-
Dr. Height.
I don't have any information. That is a number. It is similar to other states have similar limits related to career and technical education teachers and industry experience.
Thank you. Board Member Lear.
Another piece of information, it's the number of years that a teacher moves from, now I lost the term, but it's from provisional to be fully licensed. It's I think a very typical period of time. I don't know who chose it initially, but I know it's used in other places as an appropriate period of time for study that somehow makes you qualified.
And Chair, if I may,
Please.
to Member Longacre, the other piece of that is in our current mentoring rules within the State Board of Education, we typically consider a teacher provisional for their first 3 years. So that's kind of a number we've used even to say, hey, you're now a professional teacher with that mentoring. So it kind of goes along lines with that, if that helps.
I did.
Oh,
I
Board Member Lear.
sorry.
We'll just go
I
right.
had one more thing I was going to mention when I was speaking, and that is, it seems like it should say a minimum 3 years or at least 3 years, rather than exactly 3 years.
Would
So
you like to
is-
amend your?
Is that friendly?
Yes,
Which
I'd be
is
happy
allowed.
to change it
Does
to
that
say
mean
at
allowed
least.
friendly?
Yes, there's no such thing as a friendly amendment, but I would like to amend my motion.
In committee, we do recognize friendly amendments, so that.
We appreciate that, Chair.
So, and if I could just speak to it as well, I really want to thank Vice Chair Bollinger, not only for the work and time she put into this, but she either stayed up late or got up early to get this to us in advance of the committee meeting. And her explanation, I think it finds the right balance to make sure that we have qualified teachers and educators in the classroom. And I think this amendment achieves that. So the motion before the board is that we insert after line 92, paren B, for an educator assigned to teach a career and technical education class, a secondary or a career and technical education license area of concentration with, paren I, the appropriate endorsement, or paren I, at least 3 years of related occupational experience within the relevant career cluster, or, and all those in favor of that motion? Any opposed? That motion passes unanimously. Vice Chair Bollinger.
Thank you, Chair. And I can't take credit for all of the hard work. I really need to thank Dr. Height and Ben Rasmussen for getting these already. All I had to do was send an early morning email.
Oh.
So thank you for their work. So then my next amendment would be so the amendment we just made was for 7th and 8th grade. So this next amendment I'm proposing would be to inside after line 99. This would address 9th through 12th grade. So it's the exact same amendment, but just addressing the next grade level. So same thing for B, for an educator assigned to teach a career and technical education class, a secondary or a career and technical education license area of concentration with paren I, the appropriate endorsement, or paren I, at least 3 years of related occupational experience within the relevant career cluster or.
Not seeing any lights. The motion before the committee is that insert after line 99, paren B, for an educator assigned to teach a career and technical education class, a secondary or a career and technical education license area of concentration with, paren I, the appropriate endorsement, or paren I, at least 3 years of related occupational experience within the relevant career cluster, or. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes unanimously. Vice Chair Bollinger.
Thank you. And I have two more motions, just so you guys know lunch is coming, okay? So my next motion, and this is an easier one for us to read, is that the committee strike lines 110 through 113. And those lines currently read, and if an educator is the teacher of record of secondary mathematics for students with disabilities, the educator shall also hold the appropriate endorsement for the course unless in a co-teaching setting with a general educator who is properly licensed and endorsed. And many of you have heard me talk about this requirement to have a secondary special education mathematics endorsement. This is not the case for any other content area. We don't require it for language arts or science or social studies. And so this has actually really been a barrier for special educators to stay in the classroom. I personally know several educators who left the profession because of this requirement, which is very concerning to me. And as a board, in our goal to streamline our licensing, I think this is going to make a big difference in keeping good special educators in the class, and that's our goal, right, to retain. So that would be my motion. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Not seeing any lights. The motion before the committee is that the committee strike lines 110 through 113. Paren B, if an educator is the teacher of record of secondary mathematics for students with disabilities, the educator shall also hold the appropriate endorsement for the course unless in a co-teaching setting with a general educator who is properly licensed and endorsed. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not seeing any. That motion passes unanimously. Vice Chair Bollinger.
Okay. Next motion. Thank you for indulging me. You know I'm passionate about this. Okay, so then the next motion is that the committee insert after line 153, 21, notwithstanding the requirements of subsections 6 through 9, an educator may be assigned to teach a class in a secondary setting for which the educator does not hold the appropriate endorsement for up to 25% of the educator total instructional assignment if the educator A, holds a current educator license with a professional license area of concentration in deaf education, II, secondary education, or III, career and technical education. B, is not assigned to teach driver's education, and C, is qualified to teach the course as determined by the LAA. The reason for this motion is we often have areas where there's a small charter or small district. I mean, we saw even with Box Elder today, right? If they had a teacher that needed to teach several different content areas, currently our law is saying you have to go back and get an endorsement for every single one of those. For example, if somebody's teaching chemistry, they'd have to go back and get a license for biology to be able to teach that. This allows them to teach up to 25%, which would be in most of our high school settings. If they're on a block schedule, it would be one class period out of the 8. Or we know that even on a trimester schedule, this would work. Or in a middle school, it would be a class period where this would honor the expertise of the educator for the LEA to determine if they are qualified to teach the course. But it also helps us make sure that our teachers are holding a current license. So again, it supports that balance of making sure we're taking away barriers and red tape, but ensuring we have highly qualified educators. And that would be the purpose of this motion. Thank you, Chair.
I do. Oh, Board Member Lear.
And I have a question suddenly occurred to me, and it might be more for Malia than for Amanda, but is this somehow relate to what we used to call an eminence certificate, or is a little somewhat different because it applies to more of a full-time teacher?
Chair, if I may.
If that's okay, through the chair.
Thank you, Malia Hyde, Executive Coordinator of Educator Licensing. Yes, through the chair, it is a similar thinking in that eminence was a way for LEAs to say this person is eminently qualified to teach a course,
One or two courses,
and it will
similarly.
be a small portion of an FTE. I think there was a limit. It was before my time,
Yeah.
the percentage wise, but it's a similar idea of the LEA says this person is qualified. They have the knowledge that we need. We'll provide the support. but they're a professionally licensed teacher, and they're just going to be teaching out of the area.
And with eminence, it's not done anymore at all, or?
So eminence does not exist in 2020 when we went to the new licensing structure. The LEA specific license took the place of that,
that's
and
right.
many LEA's policies do have some sort of language around eminently qualified is a way that, or a reason that they would request the LEA specific.
Thanks.
This question is also for Dr. Height. Dr. Height and Vice Chair Bollinger and I already discussed this prior to the committee meeting, but we're excluding specifically driver education instructors and teachers. And I would just like you to articulate, just for the record and the people listening or who will watch this, that, well, why are they excluded, right? I have a license. Why can't I just qualify? So could you just explain and give some perspective on why they're excluded? Thank
Yes.
you.
Thank you, Chair. Within the scope of driver education, USBE has a partnership with the driver's license division, and all of our driver education instructors are approved driver's license examiners, which requires extensive training, in addition to the liability and the risk involved in putting brand new drivers behind the wheel in a vehicle. There really are those things to consider, as well as state law that requires that driver education instructors meet a requirement that's outlined in the law.
Thank you for that. Plus, they must have nerves of steel. So, with that, we do have a motion before the committee, and that committee is that the committee insert after line 153, paren 21, notwithstanding the requirements of subsections 6 through 9, an educator may be assigned to teach a class in a secondary setting for which the educator does not hold the appropriate endorsement for up to 25% of the educator's total instructional assignment. If the educator, paren A, holds a current educator license with a professional license area of concentration in, paren I, deaf education, paren II, secondary education, or paren III, career and technical education, paren B, is not assigned to teach driver education, and paren C, is qualified to teach the course as determined by the LEA. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That passes unanimously. It looks like we've reached the end of our agenda. We are ready.
Chair, underlying motion. Can
Oh,
I make
thank
the
you.
underlying motion, please?
We started
Yeah, go
so
ahead.
strong.
I'll make that motion if
Thank
that's
you.
okay, Chair Carey.
Please.
I move that the committee continue and approve R277-309, appropriate licensing and assignment of teachers, draft 1, as amended on first reading forward to the board for continuation and approval on second and final reading.
Thank you. So the motion before the committee is that the committee continue and approve R277-309, appropriate licensing and assignment of teachers, draft 1, as amended on first reading and forward to the board for continuation and approval on second and final reading. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, that passes unanimously. We are ready for a final motion. All those in favor? Okay, motion, we're adjourned. Thank you.